David, just very briefly, I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that being enshrined in law, because it doesn't seem to me to be very specific.
No, it's very general. It's a general aspiration, and to enshrine a general aspiration in law leaves many questions about how it's actually to be applied.
Yes, so let's come back to the legislation then, and this is when it starts getting interesting, because of course it strengthens police powers to tackle non-violent protests. So this is in part 3, which is all about public order. And one of the things that they mention is noise. They're now going to make legislation to limit the amount of noise that can be made in a protest. This, by the way, is basically for this section all amendments to the Public Order Act 1986, so it has to be seen in that context. It talks about serious disruption to the activities of an organisation which are carried on in the vicinity of a public assembly. So, in other words, if you are on a fracking protest, for example, and you are slow walking in front of trucks bringing material to a frack site, that would be illegal under this. If you intentionally or recklessly cause public nuisance, if you impose, and it also talks about putting conditions on one person protests, but then it also talks about strengthening police powers to tackle unauthorised encampments. So this comes under part 4. This is about unlawful encampments that significantly interfere with a person or community's ability to make use of land. And that undoubtedly will have a corporate aspect to this as well. Many of the really limiting aspects of this bill, which are going to pretty much stop protest if it passes in its current form, certainly going to stop protest in its current form, were outlined in this document, which was published by the NPCC following the fracking campaign mainly. And this document pretty much relies on the idea that human rights protections for protests should not extend to activities that negate the rights of others, including companies. And David, I think this is a pretty highly dangerous direction to be going in, because when a corporation is able to hold its hand up and say, government, where our profits are being affected by a protest, and the government is saying to the police, you need to go and remove this protest, that's really taking things a step over the line that people shouldn't be accepting.
Yeah, it's very strange. Two things immediately occur. They seem to be moving an awful lot of issues which would normally be settled by a civil process in a court, and they're criminalising them so the police can get involved directly in favour of one side in a dispute. Negate the rights of others when you're talking about corporate profits. So that's one step away from saying, I'm very sorry, you can't set up your fish and chip shop here because this other company, Fish and Chips International, says that the competition would affect their profits. So we're going to arrest you if you try. It seems to be going down roads which are counter to a pluralistic free society, and very much towards one where the state decides what you'll believe, the state decides what you'll do, the state decides who will win and who will lose, and your obedience is appreciated, but your comment or your protest or your objection is really not welcome.
Indeed. But there's a few other bits and pieces in this bill. Here's one of them. The power to specify other areas as controlled areas. And the example that they give for this is, for example, either House of Parliament or, as is proposed, that any House of Parliament be located somewhere other than the Palace of Westminster as a result of the of parliamentary building works, or for any other reason. And this is quite interesting because the Department of Transport has just announced today that it is moving a significant proportion of its activities out of London and into the Midlands and the North, I think into Birmingham, and into Leeds. And we've got other government departments doing the same. The Ministry of Defence moving civil servants to Scotland and other places. So we are seeing, as you keep talking about this issue of breakdown, Brian, but this is the dismantling of the nation and the institutions of the nation.
That's the word. So the nation's being dismantled under the smokescreen of chaos, and as we've said many times, we were warned that chaos was to be introduced by the Conservative MP Nick Boles, as he was. That was reported in the public press, and UK column under the psychological attack on the UK has also been detailing what is to be done, which is the country taken apart. We're
Yes.
witnessing it, we're living it.
Yeah. Now, if you like what the UK Column does and you would like to support us, then please head over to ukcolumn.org/community, and there are options to help us out there. And also, please do share our material that's on the various platforms. That'd be very much appreciated.
Okay, well, an update. There was a problem with the Lynn Thayer funding appeal.